Greetings, friends. My name is Pavel Stelmach, and now we will dive in the top news of this day. Counteroffensive operations of the defense forces of Ukraine are ongoing. Our goal is deoccupation, liberation of territories occupied by the enemy. Ukrainian soldiers are forced to overcome well-fortified enemy positions while inflicting huge losses on the occupiers. At the same time, the Ukrainian command, unlike the Russian one, protects its soldiers. In the Berdyansk and Melitopol directions, the defense forces are gradually but surely advancing. Staromayorsk was liberated and our troops reached the enemy's main line of defense in certain areas of the front. In the south, 12.6 square kilometers were freed. So from the beginning of the summer, the total freed area is more than 200 square kilometers. At the same time, the battle for Bakhmut continues. Defense forces are advancing on the southern flank of the city.
Готуємо і перелік деокупаційних кроків.
We are also preparing a list of deoccupation steps for Crimea, comprehensive steps: security, economic and social. We can quickly reintegrate Crimea into the state fabric of Ukraine. In fact, the occupiers should already consider that while Crimean Bridge is still somewhat operational, they should return home to Russia. Crimea, like the rest of Ukraine, will be free from all Russian evil, starting with Russian missiles and ending with every Russian occupier. Russia will lose this war, and no missile will save it.
However, the aggressor is trying to advance on several areas of the front line in the east. In the Svatova direction, the defense forces carried out stabilization measures. Enemy troops in the Nadia Novoyegorivka area were eliminated. On July 27th, an explosion occurred in the center of Taganrog. Everything that is happening in Russian cities is a direct consequence of the war that the Russian Federation started against Ukraine. War with destruction and death always returns to where it came from.
Поступово війна повертається на територію Росії.
Gradually, the war is returning to the territory of Russia, to its symbolic centers and military bases. And this is an inevitable, natural and absolutely fair process. But we must be aware that, just as last year, Russian terrorists can still attack our energy sector and critical facilities this winter.
The losses suffered by the Russian Federation in Ukraine negatively affect the quality of weapons and the professionalism of their own army. Because of this, the Russian army regularly harms the Russians themselves. Planes fall in residential areas, bombs are mistakenly dropped, etc. Taganrog periodically suffers from the Russian army. Just a few days after the explosion on July the 30th, a Russian UAV crashed near Taganrog. A possible source of threats to the city is the Russian air base nearby, where 295 strategic bombers and positions for launching UAVs over Ukraine are located. But not only Taganrog suffers. On the weekend, drones flew to decision-making centers in Moscow, the building where 3 ministries are located. Not the residential building that the Russians hit, but the government building. Of course, it is still necessary to understand who launched drones that caused the damage to the building in the center of Moscow, the capital of the country that started the largest war in Europe after the Second World War. This is a military boomerang. It always hits back. The number of Russian mercenaries in Belarus is only about 5,000, and they do not have heavy equipment. Currently, there is no threat of a new large-scale invasion from the territory of this country to Ukraine. PMC Wagner in Belarus is a tool of hybrid war. The Kremlin and Minsk regimes can deny their responsibility for their possible provocations. One of the possible targets for provocations is the Suwałki Gap, a narrow strip of the border between NATO members Poland and Lithuania and Belarus. The borders of Ukraine and NATO countries with Belarus are reliably equipped with covered troops. Possible adventures of Russian mercenaries are hopeless. The Wagnerians pose the greatest threat to Belarus itself. But at the same time, Russia and Belarus continue the hybrid war with Poland. Wagner fighters in Belarus could pose as migrants and enter the EU. Polish Prime Minister Mateusz Morawiecki has warned. Wagner could also facilitate illegal migration from Belarus, which Poland describes as hybrid warfare. He says about 100 Wagner troops have moved near the city of Grodno, close to the Polish and Lithuanian borders. The Prime Minister added that some Wagner troops have moved to Belarus under a deal to end a brief mutiny in Russia in June. Warsaw says it sees Wagner's presence in Belarus as a potential threat and is seeking to shore up its eastern flank. But Mr. Morawiecki claimed their mercenaries might pose as Belarusian border guards in order to help migrants cross the EU countries' borders, or even pretend to be migrants themselves to enter the bloc. On Thursday, Poland's interior minister said that Poland, Lithuania and Latvia could jointly decide to shut their borders with Belarus if there were incidents involving the Wagner group along their frontiers. Mr. Morawiecki said that there had been 16,000 attempts to cross the border between Belarus and Poland so far this year. According to the EU border agency Frontex, there were more than 2,300 illegal borders crossing into the EU from Belarus between January and June. Poland and Lithuania have both erected fences along their borders with Belarus to try to reduce the number of people crossing it illegally. That concludes our video for today. Thank you for watching. Stay updated and subscribe to our UATV English channel for more news from Ukraine. Your support is that really matters. Goodbye.